The Fantastic Four First Steps is now in theaters. Hello, I'm back. Took a little bit of a break from YouTube here, and now I'm here to talk about Fantastic Four, a movie directed by Matt Shakman, he of WandaVision fame, which is one of the best things Marvel has done in the past 5-6 years, probably. This movie stars, Pedro Pascal, Vanessa Kirby, Ebon Moss-Bachrach, I think, and Joseph Quinn. Ralph Ineson is Galactus. Julia Garner is the Silver Surfer. Walter Hauser's in this movie. Natasha Lyonne jumps up in this movie somehow. What did I think of this movie? This movie is going to be #1 at the box office. It's going to make about 150 million probably, and I think it's fine. I think it's good, but it just could be so much better. This is definitely a Fantastic Four movie. Why is everyone so sad in this movie? The Fantastic Four, while they weren't my favorite comic ever, I feel like I have a decent enough knowledge of the Fantastic Four to speak on this, about like what I would expect and what like people should expect out of this movie as comic book fans and not comic book fans alike. We have to kind of go through the casting one by one, and let's start with Pedro Pascal as Reed Richards, Mr. Fantastic. I think he's okay in this. The thing about Reed Richards is that while he is supposed to be, the smartest man in the room, and he does have charisma, he's also supposed to be like an asshole. Like because of how smart he is, he can be smug and arrogant, and a lot of that is like this shield of him having this tremendous burden on him that because of how smart he is, he feels the need to think of basically like worst case scenarios of things and create these horrible, in theory, horrible devices or situations or technology like the negative zone or things like that. And it doesn't really work for me with Pedro Pascal. I think he's good in it when it comes to the charisma parts. And I mean, he does have a scene where he talks about like, being the genius that I am is this great burden because I have to think of the worst case scenarios for myself and for everyone. And it weighs on me because I'm always trying to outthink these worst case scenarios and blah, 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 blah. And that stuff is interesting, but he's not happy in this movie. Vanessa Kirby, I think she's fine. I don't think she has a lot to do, despite the fact that she, in a way, is the main character of this movie. Joseph Quinn, I think, is the most miscast. I don't think his Johnny Storm has any charisma, any appeal at all, really. He has stuff to do plot-wise, but like character development-wise, he's no Chris Evans of the old Fantastic Four movies, where it's like at least there's like chemistry between people and he interacts with the non-Fantastic Four differently. We see like no Joseph Quinn interactions with the fans or with normal people. Like we just don't really get that. He has a lot of back and forth with Julia Garner, Silver Surfer, and that is supposed to kind of like be our view into him being like a ladies' man, I guess. And I don't know, it's just really uninteresting, I think. Ebon Moss-Bachrach, I don't know how to pronounce his name. He of the Bear fame. I think he's fine. He has a good voice, but at the end of the day, he is just playing a CGI thing, literally. And I don't have an issue with him. I thought he was pretty good. Again, we just don't really have a lot to go off of with him. He has this somewhat budding romance with Natasha Lyonne, I guess. But it doesn't really go anywhere, and it's just like very tiny glimpses of what these four people's lives are like. And I'm doing a lot of complaining about the casting, and I think it's probably because the casting is like the biggest weakness for me. I think this movie's good. This movie looks really good. The production design is really good. It takes place, spoiler alert, in the 1960s on a different Earth, not the MCU Earth, the one that we all know. Earth 828, I think it was, that this one takes place on. So they are their own thing. Like this has no MCU ties at all. And they are, being the Fantastic Four. This is not really an origin story. It's almost structured in the same way Superman is, where we kind of have flashbacks, or not even flashbacks, but just like references to how they got their powers and where they are now. And then Julia Garner shows up as the Silver Surfer, says your planet's been chosen, congratulations, and then leaves. And then it's like, oh, time to go fight, time to go meet Galactus and bargain with Galactus. Galactus, famous for being a very tall man that eats planets. Cool concept, great stuff, great villain. Obviously, in the second Fantastic Four movie ever, Rise of the Silver Surfer, he's a giant cloud man, and it's no good. In this, he's voiced by Ralph Ineson, he of the Green Knight and the Vivitch. I love him. I love him. I think he's a great character actor. The Green Knight is one of my favorite movies of all time, and he's putting in the work for Galactus, I'd say. He looks like a giant man that would eat a planet, and we catch him eating some planets sometimes, and I think it's fine. I think I saw this in IMAX. I think it looks pretty good. I think it sounds pretty good. The CGI is competent for the most part. I wouldn't say it's anything extraordinary, but it certainly never pulled me out of the movie with the Galactus stuff. What did pull me out of the movie is when we first meet him, there is obviously a scaling issue that they have to deal with. How big is Galactus technically? And when we meet him, he's ginormous. I mean, he's huge. He towers, and as he should. But then eventually he gets to Earth, and he's taller than the buildings, and he's taller than the Statue of Liberty. But as soon as he steps onto Earth, it feels like they had to shrink him down a little bit because he was almost too big. I guess, I don't know. It just seemed like he got scaled down whenever he made it to Earth. And I was thinking about that during the movie. It pulled me out of it, and I was like, wait, why did he shrink? Why does it feel like he shrunk at least? I don't know. It mostly worked for me, but it did bother me a little bit. I'm not gonna lie. I think the first act, the first 40 minutes or so, I think are probably the best. This movie is short. This movie's under 2 hours, which you're never gonna hear me complain about an under 2 hour movie, especially in today's day and age with superhero movies having to be 220, 230, 240, just completely unnecessary. This does not spend a lot of unnecessary time with stuff. It gets the ball moving, and I'm very happy with that. Why is everyone sad in this movie? This is supposed to be Marvel's first family, the family of Marvel, and the banter between them. Why does none of it work? Just no one. It feels like no one's happy to be with each other at all times. Everyone's just kind of grumpy. I think grumpy is the word I would describe it. Pedro Pascal was constantly grumpy in this movie up until Franklin Richards is born, and then he's just stressed, which fair, given all the, I'm not going to give away every plot detail, but saying that Franklin Richards is born in this movie is not a spoiler. I don't know why the tone was the way that it was. And Matt Shakman, who did WandaVision, knows how to do emotions. At least he did in WandaVision, and I think he was a good pick to direct this movie. It made sense, him working in the MCU sphere of it all, but I don't know why the tone is the way that it is. This movie needs to be more fun and uplifting. And even when eventually, Galactus arrives at Earth, things go wrong, and then eventually things go right when they basically use Franklin Richards as bait to lure Galactus, and then somehow their third act structure, somehow their plot works to vanquish Galactus, basically send him very far away where it would take him millions of years to return. It works because the power of motherhood, I guess. Vanessa Kirby just gets really strong and uses her force field powers to push him into the teleporter that Reed Richards had built. And it kind of just comes out of nowhere. I think it makes Galactus look pretty weak. Not to say that it's not believable, but it's just, I don't know. It was a very anticlimactic ending to that whole plot line. In terms of something that surprised me, not a lot of action in this movie. Outside of 2 action set pieces, really? There's the first time we meet Galactus, which is when the Fantastic Four go to space and they go to a planet that Galactus is currently eating, more or less, or they go to a ship and they talk to Galactus, and then they try to escape Galactus, and that's an action scene. And then the next action scene is basically when Galactus shows up on Earth. Like, there's a little bit of a Silver Surfer set piece before that, but then Galactus shows up on Earth and it's time to fight him again. And they do, and it, neither last that long, really. Not that I'm asking for these drawn out action set pieces. I didn't like Captain America Civil War, so I don't necessarily need stuff like that, but there's just not a lot of interesting uses of the Fantastic Four powers, more or less. And I think it probably is because I don't think we still know what to do with them necessarily. Mr. Fantastic, Reed Richards himself, like his use of the stretching is like rare, I'd say, in this movie, and kind of just is used to like maneuver slightly longer distances than usual. I wouldn't say that it's used in a interesting way outside of maybe once, maybe twice. Sue Storm I think her powers are kind of used, I'd say, the most. Like her the ability to turn things invisible and her force fields or whatever is fine. Johnny Storm, I think the flames look good on him. I think they look fine. And the Thing is the Thing. He's always got his powers, and he uses his super strength sometimes. All this to say, like, I generally liked the movie. I'm being very negative. Maybe that's just because I think, like, the vibe, other than the vibes of the characters being sad, I liked the vibe of the environment, of the production, of the Earth themselves. It's a very happy Earth. A lot of, it's 1960s New York with like a couple of futuristic twists on it, and I think all that is fine and interesting to look at as opposed to the normal Marvel slop that we've seen nowadays. But I don't know. I gave this like a 3 out of 5 on Letterboxd, and I'm not sure how anyone could give it more than that. I really don't, unless you are just this. I don't know. If you're taken away with Pedro Pascal, I'm in a weird spot with him where, I definitely like him. I love him a lot in The Last of Us and Game of Thrones. He's great. We're at risk of overexposure for Pedro Pascal. He's good at Eddington, but this feels like a real. I just don't know if this was the role for him. I don't know, because Reed Richards is not supposed to be this charismatic lead man. He's supposed to be this kind of prickly, ornery, but ultimately like loving person. And Pedro Pascal almost has too much charisma for it, I guess, in a way where his charisma makes him almost unlikable, or it turns his charisma into unlikability, where I'm just like, this guy is kind of annoying sometimes. I'm not even sure if I can describe it properly. I just don't think this was the right casting. I don't know what is the right casting. Is maybe my overall take is that maybe we just don't get a Fantastic Four movie, like a great Fantastic Four movie. Maybe it just doesn't exist. Maybe these characters are too difficult to put into a movie. Like, they've been around for decades and decades. We've had many different iterations of the Fantastic Four. We've had 4 different movies, basically 4 different casts at this point. 3 or 4. And I don't know. Maybe at this point we hang it up. The post-credit scene at the end, it's 40 years after Galactus is vanquished. Franklin Richards is like a 5-year-old, 4-year-old, 5-year-old, and we exit the room with Vanessa Kirby. She walks back in, and all of a sudden, there's a man with his back to the camera, and he's in a dark green robe with a hood over his head, so we can't see who it is, but he's holding a little mask, and it certainly looks like a Doctor Doom mask. So we all know the next Marvel movie is not for like another year and a half, supposedly, and it's Avengers Doomsday. I can't say I'm excited for Doomsday at this point. I'm nervous about the RDJ casting. I'm nervous about just the little tidbits that I hear every now and then, even though I try to ignore those things because, like, who knows what you're aggregating just for clicks on Twitter or whatever. But allegedly, they don't even have a third act when they started production. It's not great. You kind of need that to finish a movie, but I don't know. If anyone could pull it off, it's probably the Russo brothers, who I have little to no faith in after the Electric State and whatever other slop they've put out post Endgame. But yeah, I don't know. That's my Fantastic Four review. I ultimately think this is a good movie, but I just think there's a lot of little things that are wrong with it that hold it back from being a great movie. And I'm not even sure what the solutions are to those issues. But we live and we learn. But other than that, thank you so much for watching. I promise I'm going to be more active on this channel moving forward. I just took a little summer break, whatever. What did I miss? Superman? Psh, who needs it? Just kidding. Superman's a great movie. I watched Happy Gilmore 2. I'll probably do a very quick review of that because that movie does not warrant that much discussion. All right, I'll see you in the next video, and goodbye.